So I'd like to begin today by introducing Michael Singer, the author of The Untethered Soul and also the author of The Surrender Experiment. And we're here with our New Harbinger publication staff to celebrate the 10th anniversary of this phenomenal book that has changed so many lives. And actually at this point, we know it's changed over 1 million lives because sales have reached over 1 million copies, and it's been translated into 32 different languages worldwide, so it's reached even more than 1 million, honestly. This book has really changed my life personally as well. I just have to mention that. So thank you for writing it, and thank you for publishing it with New Harbinger. The Untethered Soul is a book that begins by walking you through your relationship with your thoughts and emotions, helping you uncover the source and fluctuations of your inner energy. It then delves into what you can do to free yourself from habitual thoughts, emotions, and energy patterns that limit your consciousness. And finally, with perfect clarity, this book opens the door to a life lived in the freedom of your innermost being. So, Mickey, I was thinking we could perhaps just begin with a few definitions of the terms that you use in the book. And I know people use these words in different ways, and I'd love to hear you talk about what your definition of self-realization.
You start at the end.
Start there.
Everything has levels, obviously, right? And so let's take the simplest level of the term self-realization. You are in there. I always play with people when I start, and I ask, "Hi, are you in there? Hi, are you in there?" Right? I've done that for 45 years, and I've never ever had anybody say no. Okay? Hi, are you in there? And then the question is, who is that is aware that they are in there? And our tendency is to think that I am the body. I am this package of body and mind and emotions. That's the I. That's who I am. Right? And the book very clearly, one of the main things the Untethered Soul does, is walk you through showing you that's not true. All right? That if your body, once your body was 15 years old, and now it's 50 years old, right? It has gone through some rather dramatic changes, but you're still in there. And the you who's in there now looking at a 50-year-old is the exact you that was in there looking at a 15-year-old. And you know that, all right? So you didn't change one iota, but your body went through. So on. Some people have accidents or something goes wrong and they lose a limb or something. It's still them. They did not change one iota. They're just aware that, my body's not in the same state as it used to be. All right? So the question becomes, who is this that is looking at the body in the mirror, not what is the body they're looking at? Who are you? All right? And then you work through the process of, well, I'm my mind. I have these thoughts, right? But who's aware of your thoughts? I don't want to get into the whole discussion we're going to have today in just one answer, but you are aware of your thoughts. The exact you who looks at your body in the mirror is the you that notices that your mind is saying, I'm not sure what he's talking about, or I've studied this. Come on, we've studied this stuff for years. Everybody knows this already. Whatever the mind's saying, you are watching that. So the question becomes, in the end, who are you? When your heart goes through different changes, some people come and they say, my heart hurts. I always tell them, I'm not a therapist. They wouldn't let me be a therapist. You don't want to come to me one-on-one. Because if you come to me and you say, my heart hurts, I'm going to ask you, how do you know? And that's not what you expect me to ask you. How do you know your heart hurts? And you're going to get mad at me and say, because I'm in here and I see the thing. Who is? Who are you that's watching your heart hurt? Is it the same you who watched yourself feel love? Watch your heart feel love? Now you're watching the heart hurt? Of course it is. You're in there. Self-realization, in its simplest sense, is to say you have realized who's in there. You have realized that you are not your mind, you are not your emotions, you are not your body, you're certainly not anything you're looking at, your car or your house. They can change, you're still there, right? Who is the unchanging one? Who is the one that's always there and has been in there from the beginning, all right? And someday you will be on your deathbed and you will be watching yourself take your last breath and watching your mind say, oh, I had a nice life, or I haven't, and you just be there. You're there. So this is the self. This is the Atman. This is the soul. So self-realization is that you have returned to that seat of being, and that's the beginning of self-realization. That's the minimum. I have realized what I'm not. Okay? All right? Now the question is, who am I? Now that I've returned to the seat of my being, where did it come from? What is the source of consciousness? What is the source of self? All of that falls into the realm of self-realization.
And so there are these different aspects of our being, and part of this journey is realizing, by learning to watch your thoughts, that you have these different aspects to your being. Is that right?
You are the being that has these aspects.
Okay.
I'm not going to call the consciousness an aspect of your being. Just like as people say to me, do you believe people have a soul? And I like to use shock therapy. So I say, no, people don't have a soul. They are the soul. That's what the word soul means. You, who you are. You don't have one. You have a car, you have a purse, you have a soul. You are the one that has these things. So that aspect of yourself is yourself. It is the awareness of being. If I take away what you're aware of, you're still aware that it's not there. If I take away your awareness, it's over. I've turned off the light. There's nobody there. So that's who you are. All right? Then you are aware of these different aspects of your being. You are not an aspect of your being.
That's a good distinction. And so, how does this psyche develop in our being? I'm imagining that at some point, maybe when we were born, that we were more aware of our awareness, that we were perhaps operating more from our consciousness. And then the psyche starts to develop, and I'm wondering.
It's very deep. You're asking a very, very deep question. There are answers.
I'm wondering when that psyche starts to take over, essentially, and then how that develops, and how we become separate from
It's easy.
Yeah.
The answer is easy, but we're so lost in it that we can't see it. It is not true that when you are born that necessarily you are more centered in the seat of self, and then some terrible things happen, and you get that. The masters, Yogananda used to teach this, says the moment the consciousness, the self, drops into the body, the experience is so intense, it's overwhelming, right? It's like you're all of a sudden thrown into the water with fish swimming all around. You've never been there before, right? It's so distracting, it's so powerful, the experience is so powerful that it pulls your consciousness into the experience. So that happens immediately, all right? That you have become separate from who you are because you're busy paying attention to the object of consciousness instead of your seat of consciousness. So the more distracting something is, the more powerful the experience is, the more distracting it is. Distracting is the most spiritual word you'll ever use. It means it pulls you away from yourself. It means consciousness. I was looking at that book, then you started talking, it distracted me. My consciousness went to you. All right? So when something distracts you, it draws your consciousness toward it. So when you drop into the body, when you take birth, right, your consciousness is pulled into this experiential, unbelievable experience of the senses coming in, of noises and sounds and things and blah, 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 right? And so it immediately becomes distracted into the body and into the world, okay? And then what happens is, it's not comfortable. There's a sense of loss of self, okay? I don't know who I am, right? And this is where, as a psychologist, somebody who studies this stuff, it becomes very interesting in psychology. Then the self is not that the self-concept develops. We do it. We pull the self-concept around ourselves to protect ourselves. The self does that. The consciousness doesn't know itself. It loses itself. It's been drawn away from itself. So there's this sense of loss, a sense of discomfort, a sense of disorientation. It's very much like if somebody has amnesia. And when they wake up from amnesia, they're not comfortable. There's no one ever been comfortable when they wake up and they don't know who they are or who their family is or where they live or where they're they don't know a single thing. They panic, right? That is what happens when you lose your seat of centered self. So now, because you are uncomfortable, you immediately try to define yourself, try to cling or hold on to things that will help you define the reality that you're dealing with, right?
To orient.
Exactly, and that's where the self-concept comes from. And as a mother, you know that starts pretty early, right? That they start developing, you're my mommy. That's the first one. That's my daddy. This is my crib. The psychologist will tell you the worst thing you can do to a child is put them in a different place every single night with different toys and different people. You understand that? Because they can't find the solidity of defining themselves. And so we start to develop this self-concept in our mind. That's why we call it a concept. It's not the self, it's a concept of self. A concept is something that's not real. It's a mental image, it's a mental thought, okay? So we start to develop in our minds, this is mommy, this is daddy, this is where I live, this is my crib, this is my toy, this is, except that's where the mind comes from. And that's why they're so strong about the mind in the Terrible Twos, right? It says not that you took my toy, you took me, right? I've defined myself in relationship to this object. Don't touch it. Don't take it away. And it's panic, right? You'll see the crying and the tremendous clinging to objects.
Yeah.
That it is the self, the lost self, the fallen soul, all right, that has lost itself, that is trying to redefine itself in these objects outside. But that doesn't stop at the Terrible Twos. We then develop not just objects, but a concept of ourself as experiences happen to us. We define ourselves by the experiences we had. It's hilarious. Right? You are not the experience, you're the one who had the experience.
Oh my
but
gosh.
if I play Dorothy in third grade Wizard of Oz, right? And I'm the big hero and I did a great job, that becomes part of my definition of who I am. If I'm 30 years later and we're talking about the school play, there's a reunion, and somebody else says, I played Dorothy, you freak out. Well, I played Dorothy in that play. You understand that? It's like 20 years later, you will fight for your right to hold on to your definition of yourself. Because you literally defined yourself as the one who played Dorothy, as the one who married Paul, as the one who has his 2 children, as the one who went to school over here. You're defining yourself as the experiences you went through. Because those are the images they're the data that went into your mind. And that's why every one of us define ourselves separately, differently, and our definitions of self keep changing. Right? If you say, well, I'm Paul's wife, what happens if you get divorced? Right? Well, now I'm Ben's wife. it's like you didn't die because you're not with Paul. You understand that? But you hold on inside of you. I'm the one who had that terrible experience with Paul. So that's how you develop this self-concept. Somebody once asked Yogananda, I like to turn back to the masters, right? Right? The masters are very deep. They said, what is the ego? You heard what Freud said about it, right? They literally asked a master, an enlightened master, what is the ego? And he said, the masquerading self. In other words, the facade you pulled over your consciousness to define yourself. It is the masquerading self. All right?
So we're building our personality in order to orient ourselves to this experience.
That's exactly right. To feel safe in the world. Look, there's all these objects going on out there. What's my relationship to him? What's my relationship to you? What's my relationship? That car's mine, not that one. Like, we're trying to define ourselves to keep ourselves oriented in the ever-changing world. And that's why we limit our universe to certain people, certain places, certain things, right? And try to keep it in order. Like some people say, oh, he's a control freak. Everybody's a control freak. Don't kid yourself. It's just somebody's a little more extreme than somebody else. You need things to be the way you think they are. Right? If you went home one day and your house wasn't there, I don't mean an empty lot. There was never a time it was there. And you went by and knocked on your neighbor's door and they don't know you. Right? You'd freak. You would freak out.
Right, because that's how you orient and know yourself.
That's correct.
And by how those objects.
That's right.
That story. That place.
But it really has nothing to do with you. You're in there. You're experiencing the houses without your house the same as you experience the house with your house. You're the experiencer. You're the consciousness, right? But you have defined a mindset and you're resting on it to say, this is reality, right? According to GARP. This is according to you, right? And therefore, you need yours to be the way you defined it to be, or all hell breaks loose inside.
And we have so many emotions attached to those parts of our environment being where we want them to be. I mean, I'm just thinking about, as you're describing the personality, they're very important to us. I mean, I guess that's the illusion
It's
it's
so deep. It's so beautiful to talk about this. Every single one of those emotions and all of the important to this is because you're panicked in there and lost. And this is how you're clinging, how you're defining that it's okay. That's why there's so much emotion behind it. The only real emotion is the fear. Is that deep, you know what I'm talking about, that deep fear that it will fall apart or something will go wrong or I will say something, right? There's just that underlying insecurity of, you know what you presented was fake. That's why you're selling it all the time. That's why you worry about what you look like and what you're wearing, and you meet somebody new, oh, I got to sell yourself again, or you did real well. Like, there's two situations that are really bad, right? One is you do bad and everybody boos you. The other is you do really, really good and they invite you back. You got to do it again. You put yourself on the line. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Right? You're risking failure, right? And even
Right.
the most powerful people feel this, and that drives them, right? So what you're driven by is the fear of failure. You're driven by the fear of rejection. You're pretty normal human stuff, isn't it? Right? That deep-seated fear is the original panic that I talked about. It's still there, that I'm lost. As long as I can get things to be the way I define them, I can feel safer. I can support it. We call it support, right? Support your concept. Now, I don't have to feel my panic all the time, but it's still there, right? You can be very happy with your family and everything's wonderful, and then somebody dies or somebody leaves. It's not so wonderful anymore. You fall right back into it. It doesn't change one single iota, right? It's like, so the question is, are you dealing with the core or are you dealing with the facade? And we are all dealing with the facade and trying to get the outside world to support the facade so that we don't have to deal with the core. Can you understand that?
Absolutely. I absolutely do. And the facade, it feels like so much is dependent on the facade functioning, right? To keep everything going in our lives that we've also built.
The analogy, go ahead.
No, please.
The analogy I like to use is you went to school, high school, whatever, with a person that was so insecure. He would never talk to anybody. He was always scared, very introverted. I mean, really, just really far out there, okay? And all of a sudden, you're grown up now, and you got your Facebook page, and somebody gives you a phone call, and it's this kid. And you think about it, and he's strong, talking, inviting you to come see him. He never used to go outside by himself. He's at a park. Would you meet me at the park? I happen to be in the town where you are, and so on. I'd love to see you again. And you sit there and say, God, you've changed a lot. He said, I have completely. I used to be so scared. I'm not scared now anymore. It's amazing. I can go anywhere. I don't feel the fear. You go there to the park. His name's Paul, and you're looking for Paul, and you don't see anybody, but you see the most amazing scene. You see about 10 of these giant, football player, muscle-type people in a circle, carrying Uzis and AK-47s, all of them, right? And all of a sudden you hear a little sound from inside the circle. Here, I'm here, it's Paul. Paul? Yeah, I'm in here, right? And Paul says, see, I'm not scared anymore. I don't feel fear anymore. I feel so secure, I feel wonderful, right? Whoa, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we do.
The bodyguards?
Our whole life is a bodyguard. The fact that the husband come on time, that people treat you the way you expect to be treated, the fact that every single thing happened exactly the way you need it to be, those are your muscle men and bodyguards. And as long as that's going on, you're okay, relatively. What if I go there and pay those bodyguards more than you paid them? 1, 2, drop. You have a heart attack. Now, Paul and they're going to freak out, isn't he? That's what happens when your world falls apart. That's what happens the minute anything is not the way you expect it to be. You have some trouble, don't you? If the car in front of you is driving a speed you're not comfortable with, it's not what you're used to, it's not the speed limit, you have trouble, don't you? You start talking in there and complaining, right? If your husband's 10 minutes late, if he comes home and you prepare dinner or got special date's going to happen and you're in a bad mood, so he just walks through and goes in his room. Ooh, that's not okay, is it? That's not okay. There's all kinds of stuff goes on in there. That's the exact same stuff that Paul feels when one of those bodyguards falls down. My shield, my masquerading self, did not do its job of protecting me from myself. Spirituality, since we'll get there eventually, is all about dealing with yourself instead of hiding from yourself. Working your way past that panic, that fear, to where it will never return ever again, and there's nothing but love and joy, unconditional as to what is going on outside. The peace that passeth all understanding. That's why.
So what would be the first step on that?
You have to face it. Your first step is, like Freud said, recognition. You recognize, yep, it's true. I am constantly trying to get things my way. and I'm serious about it, right? There's a list of things that better be this way, and there's a list of things that better not be this way. And I am serious about that. And I am completely devoted to making those things happen and not happen, right? Well, that's not a very functional thing to do with your life. That is like Paul, we'll keep using the analogy, like Paul making sure he has enough money to make sure he pays off those bodyguards and make sure their guns are working and they're well trained. No, you're going in the wrong direction, Paul. You don't want that to be your life. Right? So the first is to recognize I have a problem and it's me. And I'm not going to solve it by hiding from it.
So it's not, the problem is not that my husband came home in a bad mood and passed by me and missed all of the amazing feast I prepared and the ambiance I created. That's not the problem. The problem is how I feel.
The problem is you can't handle reality because you've defined a particular way to, because you're insecure and the relationship isn't going exactly right, and you put a lot of energy into this to try to feel love and acceptance and all that. Now pay the bodyguards, do the thing, make sure the guns are good, right? It's just exactly the same thing, and it didn't work, right? And now you feel worse, don't you? You feel more insecure. You feel, okay, that's what happens.
It's almost as if you're actually far more out of control by needing to be in control, because you're going to have to fluctuate.
That's exactly right.
With everything that happens that's out of your control.
Every single
So
thing.
in fact, you're totally out of control the more you're in control.
Well, the more you need to be. Right. Now, that's very deep what you just said. We define a world inside ourselves that supports our self-concept, and we need that because we're hiding from ourselves behind the self-concept, right? And because we define the world that way, we need the world to be that way.
Right.
But the world has nothing to do with what we made up. The world is what it is. It's reality. It's beating to a whole different drum. It's beating to science. It's beating, like, it better not rain today. It's my birthday. That's stupid. What are you doing? Rain has nothing to do with your birthday. It has to do with meteorology and low pressure zones, right? So you've now left yourself vulnerable to the unfolding of reality is going to destroy you.
Right.
So that's what you were saying, and that's absolutely true.
So even if I sit down and I write my list to begin the day, and then I follow that list in order to basically make myself feel less insecure, the truth is I'm more vulnerable.
Yes.
Because things may interrupt that list that I don't have control over, and then I will be sort of subject to that experience.
If you are living your life to hide from yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. It starts, you ask me, how do you do this? It starts when you say, I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't want my state of being to be completely dependent upon somebody else's mood, upon how somebody else does or doesn't do, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, upon the unfolding of the weather, the unfolding of the world, right? I want to find my true being. I want to find me in here and be okay. Then I'll come into the world. It's not that you don't come into the world. Let me come into the world and be motivated by love, be motivated by compassion, be motivated by creativity, by inspiration, instead of be motivated by fear, which is what we are motivated by, right? Okay? It's like the most powerful of us try to stay really powerful, because the thought of, some of these very powerful people, the minute they're out of office or out of this or finances go wrong, they're jumping off buildings, right or wrong.
Right.
It did happen, didn't it?
Right.
Okay? That's because they were not powerful. They were supported by something because they were needing, and it was weak, and that strength came from conditional, by the conditional state. The moment that conditional state went away, well, it's over. I don't want to face this.
Okay, so Mickey, I would like to be okay. What should I do?
Well, first you recognize that despite all the games, and you're a powerful, successful woman, despite everything we're doing to try to be okay, that it could fall apart in a minute. In a minute. Just say one wrong thing, just, right? It lets you know it all the time, doesn't it? Right? Just sneeze at the wrong time, or burp, or it's like, it's so ridiculous, it's ridiculous, correct? Right? So notice that something inside is not okay, and it's trying to be okay by manipulating, controlling the outer environment. And then see how long you've been doing that. I always ask people, how long have you been doing that thing about trying to manipulate the outer environment so you can be okay inside? How about your entire life?
Right, exactly.
All right? It obviously doesn't work because you're still doing it. No, listen, understand that. If you keep doing something for 40 years to the best of your ability over and over again, and you're still doing it 40 years later, maybe you need to wake up and realize, gee, I think this doesn't work.
Like I would have been done by now?
Yes.
I should have been done by now.
Yes. Yes, you should be fine by now. Look how hard you've tried. All right?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But you're just as vulnerable, and you have to just as much make sure everything's okay. Do you understand that?
I do.
As when you were in high school.
Yeah.
It was just different things.
Yeah.
All right? So you first look at that and you decide, I don't want to live like that. Not it's wrong, not it's bad, but if I have one life to live, sitting on a planet spinning in the middle of nowheres, I ain't living it that way. I don't care about everybody else. They want to live it that way, that's their business, right? But I'm just sitting on a planet spinning in the middle of nowheres, and I'm scared to death. I'm constantly struggling. Why? Why? And you realize because there is something inside of me that is not okay, right? And I'm trying to hide from it. I'm trying to compensate for it. Why don't I just fix it? And that's the first thing, is it is fixable. It is fixable. Doesn't make any difference what you've ever done. It doesn't make any difference what anybody says, right? Period. It is completely and utterly fixable that you are not okay inside. And it has nothing to do with the outside. It has to do with the fact that you're disoriented in there and you've looked the wrong way. You've looked outside to define yourself instead of coming back inside to work with yourself. That's the difference, right? So I don't want to monopolize here. You can do it through questions, right? But that's a starting position.
Right.
Is you have to, it's called recognition of the problem. I've been looking outside to keep myself busy, entertained, distracted, so I don't have to deal with what's going on in here. And making everybody behave the way they're supposed to, et cetera, so I can be okay. I want instead to hands-on, directly start working with the part of me that's not okay. That's the spiritual path.
Okay. And the part of me, so let's go into that a bit more. And the part of me that's not okay, and moving more into that seat of awareness.
Okay, so you start, I always tell people, don't worry about big things. Just start with tiny little things, all right? Every single day, really, every moment of every day, something bothers you. It starts raining. Bothers you. I don't want to get wet. I don't have to get in my car when it's raining. I don't like when it thunders, all right? Somebody talks too loud. Somebody talks too soft. Too many people get into the elevator. Do you understand that?
I'm late. The kids aren't putting on their shoes. I need to get in the car.
Everything,
Right.
almost everything, causes some disturbance inside.
Right. The disturbance.
It causes some non-well-being. Well, maybe that's extreme. Maybe it's okay if it rains. I think it's very big of you, right? Since you can't do anything about it anyways, right? It's been going on for billions of years, right? So what if you just said, I need to work with myself. I'm out of control here, right?
Right.
The weather is not mine. I don't own it. It's nothing to do with me. Why am I letting it bother me, right? Why don't I sit there and say, oh, it's raining. Isn't that nice? I tell people here, you live on a planet that water falls out of the sky. If you're on Venus, hydrochloric acid falls out of the sky, right? If you're on the moon, there's no water. Mars, we haven't seen water fall out of the sky. You live on a planet that water falls out of the sky. Isn't that nice? And you just work with yourself. And you sit there and say, I'm okay when it rains. In fact, I like it. Well, I was supposed to go camping. Fine, I won't. I'd rather not go camping and enjoy my experience of not going camping than not go camping and make myself suffer because I thought I'd be happy going to camping.
Right.
And you start
Right.
working with yourself. You can change. People learn calculus. People learn to play the piano. People learn to play tennis. They weren't good at it when they started. People all the time say, oh, I'm not like that. I can't do that. Of course you can't do it to start with. You haven't ever, you have the ability to learn. It's the most important thing to learn. How to be okay with reality. It's a new game. Not how to try to make it be what I want. You're not going to do that. It's just going to make you miserable, all right? How can I learn to be okay with reality, to enjoy reality? You start with little things. So you start with the weather, right? What about when it's really hot? I don't even it's hot. Again, I tell people, do you know what hot is? You happen to be close enough to a star to feel its heat. Well, people like stars. We look up at the stars. They're romantic. They're unbelievable. Imagine getting close enough to a star that it's burning you. That's what's happening when you're hot. Wow, that's pretty exciting, all right? You get to do this. Who's stopping you? Nobody. It's your own world in there. Nobody else lives in there. Fix it. You make your apartment nice. Make it nice inside. All right? So you start working with yourself with the weather. Then I mentioned the person driving in front of you. I'm in a rush and they're going 45 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone and I can't pass them. That's reality. When you can pass them, by all means, pass them. But if you're driving yourself crazy, talking to them, complaining about them, asking what's wrong with them, why don't they drive the speed limit, et cetera, you're not doing anything but creating commotion and confusion and disturbance inside yourself, right? You know, in business, we do cost-benefit analysis, don't we? Right? Right? Here's your cost-benefit analysis of that. Cost 100%, benefit 0. What kind of person would make a decision like that? It's crazy, right? So you decide to be rational. Some people say spirituality is not rational. It is rational. It's the only rational thing. And so you sit there and say, okay, yes, when the person is driving that way, I see the tendency to get disturbed. That's a habit. I haven't learned to be higher than that. I've let myself be like that my whole life. Well, I'm going to start to change. It's not going to change overnight, but little by little, I can say things like, you know, I like to drive faster. They like to drive slower. They have as much rights as I do. All right? I get to pass them when the lines are dotted, but who am I? Right? Not that my way is the best or right or anything like that. It's just my way, right? So I honor and respect that this person is enjoying their day, and I drop back a little bit and just say, cool it. It's okay. We can enjoy this. When it's time to pass, we'll pass. Big deal. 2 blocks later, they turn, and you literally could ruin your day and tell everybody, slow driver.
And what's irrational is wishing they were driving the way you want them to
That's
drive.
Right. It's not only irrational, it's Hitleresque. Right? I mean, it's like, who are you? Right? You're a dictator.
Right.
Why is your way right? You follow me?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So
absolutely.
You start to work with yourself. It's a very personal thing that you do, and you do it for the reason of realizing I am making myself miserable. And then I'm expecting my husband and my children and the money to make me better. I'm going to kill myself and then have a vacation in Hawaii and it's going to fix everything. No, it's not. It's crazy. Well, you shouldn't even ever need a vacation. You should enjoy your life so much that every moment of it is exciting as going anywhere else.
So you start by noticing, in the book you say what part of yourself is disturbed.
That's right.
Right. So you start by noticing what part of me is disturbed by this event or this moment. And then that just helps you realize that you are being disturbed versus projecting onto that car or that situation or that event. Is that right?
You are in there. Remember I said, how do you know your heart hurts? How do you know you're disturbed? I'm not interested in how disturbed you are. I'm not interested in why you're disturbed. I'm interested in how do you know you're disturbed. Somebody knows, otherwise you wouldn't know, right? I know because I'm in here noticing this stuff in my stomach, this stuff in my heart, my mind, whatever it is, right? I'm interested in you who notices. And what you do is the minute you notice, you relax. That's the highest technique that exists. But people misunderstand. They think, yeah, but it won't relax. I try, the mind won't relax. I didn't ask the mind to relax. I didn't ask the heart to relax. I didn't ask the body to relax. I asked you to relax. You in there who's noticing, you're going to want to do something about it. Saying we're back to this discomfort, the original primal discomfort. You understand that, right? Amazing that the car in front of you can make you go back there, right? Mm-hmm. And you start feeling uncomfortable, right? Well, you want to defend yourself, you want to protect yourself, so you start complaining and yelling. I'll never drive on this road before again. Blah. You're doing that. Every single thing you do is an attempt to protect yourself from what's uncomfortable, right? Right. The only thing that is meaningful to do when a disturbance is happening inside of you is to relax. That's the highest way you can work your way through the disturbance, is you don't resist it, don't complain about it, just relax. So I'm not saying you don't do anything. You do something, you relax. You just relax yourself, relax your body, relax your chest, relax your buttocks, just relax. Mostly, there's the disturbance, here's me, I'm relaxing. When you're relaxing, you can't get engaged with the disturbance. If I relax, I can't fight with you. You understand that? I've disengaged, right? And so I relax. And what's going to happen is, because you're relaxed, that disturbance has room to pass through. It'll pass through. Everything passes through. There's not a single thing in life that doesn't come and go. It's been doing it for 13.8 billion years, right? Nothing stays the same. It all comes and goes. Inside, it will just come and go. A little bit, maybe not right away, but over time, if you leave it alone, you're going to realize it will just come and go. And eventually it won't even be there. It won't be there. Somebody will drive in front of you and you'll forget to be bothered by it. You'll get home and say, God, 5 miles I drove on this person and I didn't even think about it. That was how we were driving. This is what's happening now. It's raining. That's what's happening. It didn't even... little by little, you let go of the part of you that is using the world to define you. Right? You're literally using the world. I should be driving 55 miles an hour. I have a place to go. Yeah. So this is disturbing who I am. Mm-hmm. That's what road rage is. Why would somebody get out of a car and kill somebody because of the speed they're driving? Because it actually challenged their ability to be themselves. You understand that?
I do, and I'm thinking, you talk about, toward the end of the book, the unconditional happiness, and I'm thinking, this is the moment of choice. This is the choice. This is the power you have to choose which path you're going to go in each moment.
You were given free will. I don't want to go biblical on you, but that is what that means. That doesn't mean you get to make mountains move and you get to make everybody be. That's not the kind of free will we're talking about. In there's nobody else in there. That is your domain. There's no competition, there's no nothing. It's completely your world. It can be any way you want. Get to work.
I will. I will do it. I will do it now. So I'm as you're talking, you're reminding me, one of my favorite chapters in your book is chapter 5 on infinite energy. And I'm wondering, as you're talking and we're discussing the disturbances, I was thinking about the blocked energy that you talk about and the infinite energy. And would you share with us your thoughts about that, how that works?
We have actually been discussing that the whole time.
Exactly.
What happens is this. You are a being of energy. In other words, you, the consciousness, the Atman, the soul, the self, call it whatever you want, all right? Mm-hmm. Awareness of being is power. You have a nature. They call it your Buddha nature. You have a nature. You in there, right? You have a nature, you who sees. It happens to be ecstasy, joy, love, bliss, power, strength, light. It's beautiful. You're beautiful, okay? That is your nature. What you're looking at is not that way. What you're looking at is what you built to lock yourself up in this little house that has to be a certain way. Every single thing that you have stored inside, and that's what you're doing, you're storing the stuff inside, like circumstances happen in the past, they're over. I don't understand why they're still in there. I really don't. I don't understand. Right? Your mother died when you were 5 years old. You're now 63. And every time you hear the word mother, you start crying. Right? And you resent it. that she left you alone. And you've done therapy, right? People have all these things. Why would something that happened 50 years ago and isn't happening ever again for 50 years still be happening inside of you? Because you couldn't handle it when it happened. Do you understand that? It came in, it did not fit the world that you created, therefore you didn't want to experience it. That's the most important thing you'll ever learn. You literally didn't want to experience what actually you're experiencing. But how do you not experience what you're experiencing? You push it away.
Yeah.
You're in there with will. You ever push an emotion away? Ever push a thought away? Right? Freud had a name for that, suppression. That's what that is. You're pushing the energy away so it doesn't come all the way in your face, all the way up here. You push it away inside. When you do that, it stays in there. It stays in there, and it doesn't ever, it'll be in your deathbed. It doesn't go away. It doesn't just dissipate by itself. It actually rots down there, and that's all psychology. All psychology agrees with me. That is the foundation of psychology, that you have held that stuff inside. If you have a bad experience, one person, it is traumatic. What does traumatic mean? I couldn't handle it. I pushed it down there. It keeps trying to come back up. I can't do anything that reminds me of it. The other person had the experience. It was bad, and they let it go. Then they didn't have a traumatic experience. No experience is traumatic. Your inability to handle it makes it traumatic. Some people handle things, don't they? Some
Yeah,
people
exactly.
don't.
I've always been fascinated when there are, siblings in a family
Yes.
and they all experience the exact same event, but they are affected so differently.
That's right. That's why. So
Right.
we'll do your energy. We'll say focus. When you push that down there, it stays. Where it stays in you is actually in the channel where your energy flows. It draws your consciousness to it, even subconsciously, you know that, right?
Right.
Therefore, this energy that you are is being dissipated to hold, you're both holding it down, takes energy to hold it down, right? You're keeping it from coming back up. You're expending all kinds of energy in order to deal with this. That's where your energy is going. And you do the same thing, by the way, with positive things.
Right. It's the emotional effort.
It's more than emotional.
Yeah,
you asked
right.
about energetic.
Exactly.
It's energy. It's literally, we call it Shakti, Chi, Shakti, spirit, all the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the word for this energy. Sometimes you feel full of energy, don't you? Sometimes you feel completely drained, right? That's not emotion. That's energy.
Right,
all right?
exactly.
It's your energetic level. When you expend your energy to hold something in there that isn't even happening anymore, and you keep struggling with it, or something good happened, and you don't want it to stop. Somebody says something really nice to you, you do what we call clinging. Buddhists call it clinging. You hold it in there. I don't want it to go away. Well, then you miss everything else. If he doesn't come back and say it nice again, you get disappointed. So now you've expended energy clinging, or you expended energy resisting. By the time I put those two things down there, I've just defined all your energy. You understand that?
And you could be doing them all at the same time.
Oh my God, you're so
simultaneously.
multitasked, it's unbelievable. Hey, you can be doing them all at the same time about the same thing. You can both love-hate relationship. You get one situation happened, you loved it, it was blue. The other happened, it freaked you out, it was blue. Now what? You're blue about blue. You blew it. Right? So it gets very complicated there, doesn't it? Right? And so now every thought you have and all the emotions you have are all tied up in that stuff you held inside. Now you have to struggle with your emotions. Now you have to build your ego. Now you have to maintain it. You have used so much energy that no wonder you're tired. No wonder you don't want to go to bed. No wonder you want to sleep all the time. No wonder everything irritates you. You're over the edge, right? So you asked me about the energy. Right. This is the essence of yoga, right? Let go of that stuff. I don't care what technique you use. I don't care if you meditate. I don't care if you do mantra. I don't care what you do, turn malabis. I don't care, right? Get rid of that stuff that you are holding inside, and you will know everything there is to know about the energy you've asked a question about. As you let it go, is it not true that in traditional Freudian psychology, where you have a therapist working you through and finding mommy problems, right, that it often happens that when you finally have a psychological breakthrough, a therapeutic breakthrough, that you get filled with energy, you can't even sleep at night for days. You're just like all of a sudden a totally different person. You're so excited. Right or wrong?
Right.
You have released the energy that was being wasted on all of that stuff. And by opening up that hole, all of a sudden a natural energy flow is, but it won't stay. You understand that? There'll be the next one and the next one. The key is you in there have to decide, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live blocked. I don't want to serve my blockages. Right? So what you do is you start doing what we talked about. Little by little, you let go. You just keep letting go, keep letting go. And little by little, stuff keeps coming up, and you keep letting go. If you deal with the little things, it's not a big deal. If you deal with the little things, you're training yourself. It's like playing scales on a piano instead of sitting down to play Beethoven to start with, right? As you do that, all of a sudden you naturally get better. And because you let go of the rain and you let go of the person driving in front of you, let go of the person who beeped at you and freaked you out, right? Let go of the person who yelled at you because they were having a bad day. And you just keep letting go and letting go. Something bigger will come up from the past. I guarantee you it will happen by itself. In fact, I'm putting the skull and crossbone on this. I guarantee you it will come back up. It does it in your dreams because you're not there to keep it down all the time. You understand that? Mm-hmm. It will do it in your normal life. Little things will stimulate, and all of a sudden you'll feel, oh, God, I haven't felt this since my mother died, or this since my first husband left, or so on. Now, if that sounds scary to you, good, right? Because you don't want that in there. And it'll come up, but now that you got better at it, you just do the same thing. You relax. You let it pass. It doesn't matter if it takes 1, 10, 50 times. The point is at least you're working with it to work it out, to let it go, instead of working with it to never talk about it and push it back down. As you do that, at some point, it's going to the tipping balance will be reached. And all of a sudden, you'll wake up one morning, and there will be waves, and I mean waves, of ecstasy just pouring through your being, wave after wave, throng upon throng, higher than the highest love experience you ever had, right? Just no reason, just absolutely pouring through your being. That is your natural state. That is who you are. You are a very high being. And when you remove these blockages, that energy can flow. And then you'll go through the day and you'll feel this uplifting energy, and somebody will say something or not say something, and you'll notice that it's slowed it down. And you have a choice. Go with your stuff and lose the ecstasy, or let go of your stuff and build the channel so this energy can flow. And you just more and more every time. I don't care how much it hurts. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what it is. I am not giving up this energy. You can do that with love. You know, people, right? When you fall in love, and it's a beautiful experience. You're experiencing some of that energy. But then somebody does something, or somebody says something, or it's not what you expected. You have a choice. Give up the love, or let go of what bothered you. Isn't that the choice in a relationship? Okay, so it's no different, right? Except you're doing that with spirit. You're doing it with Shakti. You're doing it with the energy. That's yoga, right? Spirituality. And you just keep letting go, and it gets stronger and stronger, and there's no end to how high you can get. You are infinite energy. It's Master Yogananda once said, right? You have to do these practices because if the energy ever flowed freely inside of you, it'd blow you up. You have to get used to being able to handle those amounts of energy. So as you work your way through your chakras, through the different energy systems, right, you're learning to handle these amazing amounts of power. And at some point, the energy doesn't stay inside of you. It starts pouring off your hands, off the top of your head. It's just pouring, and people feel it. That's a spiritual being. That's why saints have halos. It is literally that energy pouring off. That's why Christ could heal. That's why you are a great being. You are a great being, and that is true of every single person that walks the face of this earth. Right? Now, what they do with themselves is sell out to this personal garbage game. Right? They don't feel great. They feel like beggars. I have to have things a certain way. So, there's your answer. That's all you need to know about energy.
So, I believe in this chapter too, you talk about letting pain pass through your heart. Yes. Because I can't help but think about things that are a little more difficult to let go of than perhaps, the smaller steps we take with the rain or a driver we don't like. But there are, of course, things that are more painful,
yes, of course,
and more challenging, and
yes.
People who we're close to that we lose, and so you do talk about letting pain pass through your heart, and I love that phrase. And you also talk about the heart chakra.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you can just go into that a little bit more.
Well, as you let go, you become more open. I don't want to call it vulnerable. You become more open, right? Mm-hmm. When we're back to the analogy of my friend Paul's surrounded, right?
Okay,
when those people fell down, oh my God, I'm exposed, right? Well, you want to be. If he wants to work through his insecurity problem, he didn't do it. He can keep those people around him with Uzis for 30 years. They fall down, he's going to have a heart attack. Understand that? He's not working at the right level. Mm-hmm. So yes, life has all kinds of things happen in life. Some of them when they come in are pleasant, and some of them come in are not pleasant. Not just because you have stuff in there, right? If you see a rattlesnake, anybody, it's a scary thing. Its vibration is scary. It has its nature. You understand that? If a butterfly comes and lands on you, it's a beautiful thing. Its vibration is pleasant and nice. That's not you. You're not doing that. That's not psychological. That's experiential. See the difference?
Yes.
All right? So the question is, are we willing to have the experiences that we have, learn from them, by all means, not push them away, learn from them. I can learn from the rattlesnake. I can learn from the fear it creates. I can learn that he'll crawl away if I leave him alone, right? I don't have to do anything else but experience it and learn. And it became part of me. Doesn't mean I'm afraid of rattlesnakes from then on. In fact, I shouldn't be. I am an experiencer of rattlesnakes. I had the experience, so now you want to go hiking with me because I don't freak out and you run around and throw things at them. You understand that?
Right.
I've learned how to deal with rattlesnakes. I've learned how to deal with death. I've learned how to deal with divorce. I've learned how to deal with different things that happen, right? Doesn't mean I like it, that I want it, that it doesn't cause disturbance when it happens, but I'm not reacting to that disturbance and letting the disturbance run my life. I'm maintaining centered and clear inside, noticing that there's the event outside coming in and that it is not comfortable when it comes in. I notice that and I relax. I relax and release. It's always R&R, relax and release. You constantly relax and release, and then your initial reaction of disturbance passes. When the rattlesnake goes away, why do I still feel disturbed? Because I wasn't willing to accept the experience. If you accept the experience, as be here now, if you accept the experience and it comes in, when the experience is no longer happening, you're just left a wiser person. Aren't I wiser because of the experiences I had? Right? I'm not still scared. There's nothing to be scared of. Okay? All right. And so now that's how you deal with the situations in your life. Doesn't mean they're all pleasant. Nobody's saying if you meditate and do mantra, read the Bible, whatever it is, that nothing, use the word bad, nothing bad will happen to you. Well, I say nothing bad will happen to you because there is nothing bad. There's just experiences that unfold, right, that we learn from. All right? Doesn't mean they're comfortable. But there's nothing wrong with something being uncomfortable. Hey, no pain, no gain when we lift weights. Right or wrong? Don't we use that expression?
Right.
Right. Well, why don't we use that inside?
Right.
No pain, no gain. Right? When somebody's massaging you, ever had a massage? Right? Somebody's massaging you, and all of a sudden there's a sore spot. What do? You say, oh, there, it hurts really bad there. You know darn well they're going to go down deeper, aren't they? Well, I don't understand. Inside you're a baby. Anything hurts? No, it's wrong. Don't touch me. Get away from me. Right? Literally. Right? Why don't we deal with it exactly the same inside as we deal with it outside? And just sit there and say, yes, there are experiences in life that are not pleasant. Good. I like to learn from them. Doesn't mean I want to have them. I'm not praying for them, right? But if they happen to present themselves in front of me, this is my opportunity to become a greater being, to be able to handle the reality of life. There.
And so that's also the thorn you talk about, right? That you can carry.
You let it go. Let things go.
Yeah.
Instead of compensating for them and learning how to be okay that it's there, it's only there because inside there are no thorns. There's no physical being. It's etheric inside. It's completely open. How hard is it for you to change your mind? Right or wrong?
Right.
Okay? There's nothing in there. It's totally empty, right? It's just loose, right? It's looser than the clouds. So why not make it nice in there? So if something comes in and it's disturbing, I always tell people, if you went through a traumatic, terrible experience when you were young, I wish I could go down there and beat the people up and go back in time and protect you. Oh, I would love to do that. But I can't. I can't. And you can't either, and nor can anybody else, right? So I will blame the person who mistreated you or did this thing to you when you were 5 years old, you're an innocent child, right, for causing that problem then, but they stopped. They went away, they moved, they died, arrested, I don't care,
It's
whatever.
over.
It's over.
Right.
But you didn't let it be over. For the next 30 years, you did it. I have to blame you for those 30 years. I can't blame them, they're not there. I can't blame the experience, it's not even happening. How dare you blame the experience that happened 25 years ago? You are the one who chose to keep that inside of you and let it destroy your life. Ooh. You got to own that.
So relax and release.
And release. Just keep
R&R.
everything that comes up. Learn, I can be okay even though the heart hurts. I can be okay even though the mind is complaining. I can be okay even though my mind is saying, I don't want to do that. It's not my turn to do the dishes. He left anyway. I don't. I can be okay letting go of that and dealing with a deeper part of my being. Your whole life will change. And everyone around you will change. Everything will change. Correct?
Yes. And so if you're experiencing the deeper part of your being, I was just going back to what we started with, which again is the idea of control, that you're so dependent on things being a certain way in order to feel happy or content. But what you're saying is we can feel happiness or content, a different kind, if we're that deeper being.
You're complete and whole within yourself. You need nothing.
To happen a certain way or to be a certain way or to
You're
look
the
a
one
certain
who
way.
set up the condition that
Right.
said, I'll only be okay if he does this. Somebody else said, I'm going to freak out if he does that.
Yeah.
A thing is nothing in and of itself. It's an event. It's because you have a preconceived notion inside yourself based on all your, we call some scars, past impressions, right?
Right.
About how you want things to be or don't want them to be. It takes two to tango. It takes the event and your attitude about the event. You change your attitude about the event, everything changes, doesn't it?
Right.
That's
Exactly.
the deepest thing we can go, right? You change your attitude about the event. It's as if the event changed. Everything changed.
And the attitude is remembering that you have this choice.
The attitude
To
is
be happy.
remembering that reality is bigger than you. And I mean a lot bigger than you, right?
Right.
I always tell everybody, the moment that's unfolding in front of you, how many other moments are happening in the universe that aren't unfolding in front of you? 700 billion zillion. Why is the moment in front of you any different than those? It's not. Look to the right, you'll have a different one. Look to the left, you'll have a different one. There is nothing special about the moment that's unfolding in front of you. There is nothing special about the moments that have unfolded in front of you, except that they're the ones you saw. Right? How can you let that totally random thing, that the universe is doing its thing, and I happen to see this part, this tiny part right now, determine who I am?
Right. So I was just thinking, okay, I missed my flight. Okay, I missed my flight.
That's right.
So this is reality.
Enjoy it. Enjoy your little vacation
Let's
in the hotel.
choose the next flight.
Whatever.
Right. Right.
It's not going to, what good
Yeah.
does it do to resist it?
Right. Right. It's amazing. It's so simple.
It's so,
and yet,
that's correct. We don't do it because, we don't do it for the exact reason that even though I've talked to Peter or Paul over and over again that this isn't how you get rid of insecurity, right? And he understands, he's not ready to let them go, is he? He's scared. He has to face that fear. You have to face the fear. You have
and
to
how
face
do you face the fear?
by relaxing in face of it. In the
Okay.
face of it, you
Okay.
relax.
So you're feeling it. You're just
Yes.
allowing the feeling to come in.
Look, if a drug addict is going to go off of drugs, they're going to go through withdrawal.
Okay, that's perfect.
Are they willing to? Is it worth it?
And then you start to shift. You don't always react in the same way you were saying
correct.
earlier. So you can actually start. It's like spiritual muscle. You're building that capacity to
let
react,
go.
to let
Not
go.
building the capacity to control,
No.
building the capacity to relax in the face. I always teach this. First let go, then if it's still there, deal with it. You're going to find out that 95% of the time, once you relax and let go, there's nothing left to deal with. If somebody walks up, you say, hey, Sally, how are you doing? She doesn't turn around and say hello, and she's your friend. Okay? No, there's an experience. It's not comfortable. What's wrong? Why she didn't, blah, blah. Did she not hear me? All that stuff goes on, right? Relax through it. Relax through it. Okay, fine. That's what happened. Now, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. She's not there anymore. There's nothing to do, right? And you're crazy if the next time you see Sally, why didn't you say hello? It's great. You won't do that because you handled it. There's no reason to say anything. What a nice person you are. Maybe she didn't hear you. Maybe she's in a bad mood. Who cares? Right? So if you are willing to let go, you're going to find out the vast majority of the time there is nothing to do about it except let go. Now sometimes there is. Sometimes you let go. I dealt with this, but there's actually something going on out there I need to deal with. Okay? You will be so much better dealing with it because you're actually dealing with the situation instead of dealing with your disturbance about the situation. That's the most important thing in life. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Right? If you're disturbed by it, you're going to be trying to not be disturbed. Nobody says that what you're saying or doing in order to make yourself not feel disturbed is the right thing to do about the situation. Do you understand that? It's only it's only you hope the right thing to make you feel better. That doesn't say it's the right thing to do with that situation. You're a husband or a boyfriend on the way out the door in the morning says, you know, I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't have time, but I've been having some trouble. When we come home tonight, I want to have a serious talk. Nice nice guy, bring that up in the morning. You could have waited till we come home, right? But the net result is, right, it's going to create some disturbance inside of you, right? What good does it do to be doing that all day?
Right.
The answer is nothing. Now watch this. Now it comes night. Because you did that all day, I'm going to tell you what that conversation is going to go like this. This poor guy's having some problem. He said he wanted to talk about it. That's nice. The relationship's close enough that he wants to bring it to you, right? You're going to sit down, and the minute he sits down, you're going to say, come on, I have been so giving to you in this relationship. I don't understand how you could have a problem, right? Didn't I do this when that happened? And wasn't I there for that? And don't we share the bank account? I work and do the stuff when you had a problem. So I don't understand. You're going to sit there and try to make yourself feel better about the fact that this guy wanted to talk to you.
So
how does that help him?
Right. And you're trying to change the reality.
That's exactly right, because you don't feel comfortable with it. The alternative is to say, oh, okay, this is not comfortable, of course, but good. At least we're going to have a talk if something's bothering somebody. I want to know about it. Thank you. I appreciate. I'm scared. Of course I am. I feel anxious about it, right? But I appreciate this opportunity. I am looking forward to hear what they have to say. And you sit down and you be quiet for a moment, and you're able to because you didn't disturb yourself about the whole stupid thing. So if you can handle what's going to happen, you will do better. And you know as a therapist, relationship-wise, you are better off listening to that guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. And you can ask what part of me is disturbed.
And you know what part it is, my self-concept.
Right.
I thought this relationship was stable, and I've done this. And you know what part it is? The I. Yeah. You'll hear it talking. Yeah. I did this. I don't deserve this. My past relationship was like that. I thought he'd be different. Me, I, me, and mine, the little ego.
Or he's not going to love me.
That's what I'm saying. It's still the I.
Right, yeah.
I have these needs.
I am threatened.
That's right. What if you were in ecstasy? That's where I want you. You're literally waves of joy and love and ecstasy. You sit in the toilet, you feel it. You wake up, you feel it. You're driving, you feel it. Just that's what's going on. And your special, significant person says to you, you know, I'm having some trouble. I want to have a talk tonight. You say, oh boy, that'll be fun, right? Because it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them.
So let's go there. Let's talk about the transcendental love or ecstasy that we could dwell within. I'm finding that very appealing.
Well, it is your natural state. It is your natural state. You're living in an unnatural state, just like Paul behind those Uzi holding muscle men, right? That's a very unnatural state, right? And you have to support that unnatural state. So you're living in an unnatural state, and you're saying the only way I can feel love is if everything, right now, the only way a human being feels love is when everything lines up that matches the junk they built inside. If you talk to me the way I want to be talked to, if the lighting is right, and if there's nothing on my mind from work, and if you're not wearing a bow tie, right? It's like everything has to be exactly matching what you have inside. Do you understand that? Mm-hmm. And then you will open. You're willing to open because I feel safe, because it matches my stuff, all right?
So you have to create the right environment to feel.
Or by luck it happens, whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden I feel love. What you're feeling is your natural state that's being blocked because you're closed by this stuff, right? If you have blinds and they are closed, it is not true. You have to beg and pray to the blinds to please let some light in. They're the giver of light. No, they're the blocker of light. Do you understand that? Mm-hmm. Your ego and your way of wanting things are blocking you from feeling love all the time. When the mind gets what it wants, it will open. Then you can feel the nature of your being. So when you feel love, that is who you are. You've heard that. You are love. Yeah. Right? You are light, you are love, right? But you won't do it because your mind won't let you, because you're busy protecting yourself. So you be willing to say, I am going to let down these shields. I'm going to take the blinds off the windows so I don't have to pay them to open. You understand that? Because the light is the natural state. It's not something you have to pay for or sell yourself out for or anything. So it's all a matter of letting go. Christ said you must die to be reborn. That is exactly what we're talking about. You let go of the personal self and you don't do anything else. Understand that? When something's exactly the way you like and it's perfectly matching what you want, all right, now how can I feel joy? No, when it is, you feel joy. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, it's the same thing with this. When you let go of your personal self with all these likes and dislikes and wants and conditions, right, what is left is your spiritual being, all right? And that being is transcendental. That being is independent of this world. It is watching the world, but it is not of this world. It is the consciousness that is aware of what it's looking at. You come back to the source of your being. And that, we've talked about self-realization. That is one level of liberation or self-realization. You have freed yourself from the bondage of yourself. Do you understand that?
Yeah, right. The self we built to orient ourselves.
The lower
that we
self. That's
talked
called
about.
the lower self.
Lower self.
Right?
Right.
The higher self has freed itself of the bondage of the lower self by doing what? By knowing it's not me and I don't have to spend my time servicing it. I can rest back into the nature of my being. That's the beginning of true self-realization and true liberation. Where the great ones have gone, the enlightened masters, right, is from that seat, I'm still separate. I'm still the consciousness that is looking at Mickey, that is looking at this mind, and so I can handle it. I'm not getting pulled into it, right? I'm free of that game, right? But I'm still a separate entity. Can you hear me? I'm a separate entity watching this, right? The less interested you get in yourself, the more you get involved in the flow of the ecstasy, you let go of even the separateness. There's no need to even be separate. And you find the source of consciousness is universal. The source of all consciousness is from the same place, the same ocean. All tributaries come from the same ocean. And you fall back into what Christ said, my Father and I are one, into Buddha called nirvana. Yogananda wrote a chapter in autobiography called My Experience in Cosmic Consciousness, right? When you merge, you know. I know you guys are close with IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences.
Yes.
So Edgar Mitchell, that astronaut, that happened to him when he was coming back from the moon. He was in a capsule. I talked to him once. He was in the back of a capsule by himself, looking out over the vast universe, right? Yeah. And he merged. He literally had no background in that. He just felt his body was the entire universe. And it moved him. So he's an engineer, MIT, right? He came back and devoted the rest of his life. He died recently. He devoted the rest of his life to seeing how did that happen? How could I, this conscious being, feel oneness with all the stars and all the galaxies? And he studied the Institute of Noetic Sciences, the study of consciousness. What is it?
Right. Exactly.
They were co-publishers of the book. I know you know that.
Exactly, yeah. I have great respect for what they do. And they've devoted their research to these ideas. So this is, I just want to say, this is possible for anyone who reads the book, for anyone who wants this.
I get letters all the time from people that not only talk about how it made their life easier immediately to start letting go of the stupid stuff, but they just have these experiences, you know, deep spiritual experiences by letting go. You know, and the taste of that, and you'll never forget it. 1 second of experiencing who you are and realizing you're okay in there, you don't have to panic, it's fine, right, will change your life.
I mean, what I remember when I first read the Infinite Energy chapter was knowing that ecstasy that you described. And it was exciting to read that, to have your words describe that feeling, and you talk about it's not dependent on food or time or energy or, you know, what happened or didn't happen. And it was the first time it struck me, you know, that, oh my gosh, it's true. You could have been awake all night and in the middle of painting, you know, something that's just bringing you joy.
You don't
And
get
that
tired.
energy is not coming from the sleep I had, it's coming from something else. And that just gripped me instantly. And so to know that you could feel that when a car's cutting you off,
Whatever.
when
That's right.
your husband breezes by you,
That's right.
is just incredible.
That's right.
It's such a gift.
When you were describing that, you know, I describe myself as a nice Jewish yogi, right? But the words that Christ taught, everybody, you know, so many people are attracted and whole. Like, there was a line in the Bible that says, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that leaveth the mouth of the Father." You don't realize that you were describing that when you were talking about the fact that it's not the food, it's not this. The energy is self-sustaining and comes from inside. Man does not live by bread alone, from things outside, but by every word that leaveth the mouth of the Father, which is the source of your inner energy. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes. Yes. And so that's a state that we could experience
Absolutely.
if we choose.
It is your natural state. It is your destiny, your birthright.
There was something that you wrote in The Untethered Soul that I just wanted to ask, which is, can you literally, as a human, feel and experience the same love that God feels for creation? So I guess what I'm asking is, when we're in that transcendent state, or when we're feeling transcendental love, are we feeling what all of creation feels?
Your consciousness, your being, that ends up feeling everything you feel. There is only one consciousness. Consciousness is not something that evolved through evolution. Consciousness is what was in the beginning and will be in the end. It is the beginning and end of reality. It is literally a thing, right? Consciousness is an ocean. It is a thing, all right?
Right.
And when you come back to your seat of consciousness, instead of what you're looking at, right? So it's like I always say, if you're watching TV and you get enthralled in it, there's nothing else going on in your world. There's no other room. You're not on the couch. There's nothing, no one there. It's just the TV. That's what happens when we stare at ourselves. We stare at our minds. We stare at our hearts. We stare at our world. That limits us to that, all right? The more we let go of that by not being so interested in what's on the TV,
Right.
the more you realize, oh, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm in this room and I have a family and there's an outside, right? All of a sudden your whole thing expands into the reality that it is. So it's not that your consciousness expands, it's that it ceases to contract.
Oh, yeah.
Do you understand that?
Yeah.
You're focusing your
Right.
consciousness. If I focus my consciousness on that book over there, that's all I see. All right?
Right.
If I cease to focus it, it
Yeah.
naturally expands. It naturally becomes wholer, right? So
Right.
as you let go of yourself, you start to experience, as I said, the nature of who you are. Well, the Bible says man was created in the image of God. That is a true statement, but that does not mean that God has 2 arms and 2 legs. That's God was created in the image of man. The part they're talking about is you, the consciousness. That is the image, all right? And as you fall back into that, you experience the nature of your divinity. You experience the nature of yourself. So the question you ask, can you actually feel the love and compassion and excitement and that the divine who created creation feels for creation, right? You know the answer is yes. You've looked at a sunset and lost yourself completely and said it was a spiritual experience. I felt like I was looking into the eyes of God. Mm-hmm. That's because you let go of yourself. When you say it blew my mind, you literally mean what you said. It took this whole model I built, and for a moment it was gone, right? And all that was left was, in the yoga we talk about the experiencer merging with the experience.
Right.
That's union, right? So the answer is yes. The further back you get, the more you experience the ecstasy, the joy, the passion, the creativity of the divine. There is no end. I don't like when people sit there and say, oh, I'm God realized or I'm enlightened, right? I always tell people, say, I had an enlightening experience. Let it be that, all right? Because there is no end to how expansive you are. No matter where you think you are, you're nowheres. It is, the divine, the universality of the omnipresent and omniscient and omniscient, right, is infinite. And so there's always this expansion. But yes, you start to feel what the divine feels. You feel that, and you should feel it all the time. You feel, that's what Christ was. Christ was the embodiment in a body of that state with nothing in between. That's what we mean by a perfect being, by a realized one. He was called the highest of the high, right? Fine, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, yes, we can accept that. That's wonderful, right? We don't have to do what everybody does with it, but right? It's amazing to think, what's it like if somebody who's living in that state that says, my Father and I are one, that has complete compassion and love for all beings, no matter what religion they are, no matter what they've done, you know, that all you're looking at is, yes, God can experience, be on earth and experience it without a human in between. That's an avatar. That's the real high states that we talk about with the Buddha and the Christ and Muhammad. You hear me, all right?
Yes.
Are you capable of that? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And anyone.
If you're conscious, you're capable of it. Because that's what consciousness is. Consciousness has no qualities. It's pure. It's infinite. It's like if a light shines on something, it illumines what it's shining on. Move it somewhere else, it shines on something else. The thing it's shining has nothing to do with the light itself. Consciousness is unsoiled, untouched, nothing by what it is looked at, except that it keeps staring at it. Otherwise, you can't, there's no impurity, there's nothing, it's absolutely divine. There.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for the gift of the untethered soul, for writing these words in a way that allow us to all realize we have this choice.
Thank you. Beautiful questions. You're a beautiful soul, and thank you for publishing the book. I feel such an affinity to New Harbingers because we got to do this together, and it's helped so many people.
So many people. Thank you.